Futch with Shoreline Marine Products. I've been a certified marine mechanic for over 25 years, and I'm here today as Captain Weekend. Today I'm going to share a variety of easy boating projects that you can do yourself with the common tools that you've probably got in your toolbox right now. I'll be by your side every step of the way, and together we'll install a variety of top quality Shoreline Marine products to get you back on the water faster. So let's get going. Grab your tools and I'll share my tips and tricks so you can easily install those new hot Shoreline accessory and replacement parts and be your own Captain Weekend. Hi, it's Loye, Captain Weekend with Shoreline Marine Products. Getting ready to go fishing this weekend. Noticed my fuel line had a leak in it. Started looking at it. The line itself was starting to deteriorate, getting a little cracking in it, and when I went to prime the bulb, my hand gets black. Time to change some things around, so we'll have a good trip this weekend. Shoreline Marine makes a variety of fuel products. If you just need to change a connector, you can go down and get a connector that's specifically for your motor, Yamaha, Johnson Evinrude, Mercury, whichever you want. Easily attaches. You cut your old line if your old line's still good, plug it into the connector, get a couple of stainless steel worm gear clamps, put it on, no leaks, you're ready to go. As I mentioned before, when I was priming my bulb to get my engine started, my hand turned black from it. I hate that. And then my boat gets black marks on it everywhere that I go. I want to change my primer bulb. As long as my fuel lines and connectors are all good, I can always cut this primer bulb out, go down and get a Shoreline Marine Products primer bulb. Doesn't matter what size hose that I have. The bulb fits either a 5/16 or a 3/8. All you have to do is, if you have a 5/16, you leave your ends on. If you have a 3/8, you can cut the first length off of it and converts it straight over to a 3/8 bulb. But as I mentioned, my hoses are starting to corrode, starting to dry rot a little bit. I am getting my hands black, and my end was actually leaking on my tank. So I'm going to have to change out my whole fuel line assembly and probably change out the end on my tank. Very simple. Shoreline Marine has everything we need. Connectors, clamps, a fuel assembly for either Mercury, Johnson and Evinrude, or Yamaha. Just depends on what motor I have is which one I get. I'm going to have to change my fitting out. Takes a 5/8 wrench. Just twist it. Pull the old fitting out. Take my new fitting. Want to put Teflon tape on it. You can either use regular Teflon tape or you can use liquid Teflon tape. Wrap it around. Give it 2 or 3 turns. Get it started threaded in here. Hand tighten it. One thing you want to be very careful of when you're replacing this fitting, you're taking a brass fitting going into a plastic connector. When you tighten it up, you don't want to over tighten it because you'll actually crack the fitting on top of your tank. So just good and snug. Make sure you have no leaks in it. Shake your tank around. With the vent closed, it'll actually expand the gas, and if anything's coming out, it'll leak right out of there. You've got your fitting changed. Okay, we're ready to connect our fuel line. Make sure you always notice on your fuel bulb, there's an arrow, that's your fuel flow. You always want to have the arrow pointing towards your motor. So we'll take the end that's on the back side of the arrow, plug it into it, good tight seal, come over to your motor, plug it in, and we're ready to start it. One thing I'd like to note about the fuel lines, you can't kink them unless you really fold them really hard in half. But as you're pulling them out or when they're in your boat and they're sliding back and forth on your boat, they generally won't kink. They'll just roll right over themselves. Don't have to worry about your motor starving for fuel. You just keep on going down the water. Also, the primer bulbs and the fuel lines are all EPA rated, so you don't have any emissions going out into the air. Helps protect our services. Our old fuel line, we want to make sure we properly dispose of it because there's oil and gas still in the lines. Make sure you don't just throw it in your trash where it goes to the dump. You want to take it out to the dump and put it into their hazardous material bins. Another little thing that Shoreline Marine offers is an inline fuel filter. It's glass, so you can actually see if you have any water or debris in your filter. If you get water in your tank, you'll be able to see it in your line as you're running your motor. Couple final things about your fuel system. With the new ethanol gas that we have, a lot of the old fuel lines are being deteriorated on the inside. The outsides might look real good, but the inside of the lines are starting to fall apart, clogging up your fuel system on your motors. You want to make sure that when you change your line out, it is an EPA-rated, ethanol-based fuel line so that you'll know that it is good for the new fuels that we're using. On this boat, as small as it is, we can use what they call a B1 fuel line, which is for above deck installations. If you're in a boat that has an enclosed fuel tank, you can use this from your splash well to your motor, but inside the boat itself, you need to use the approved fuel line, which is a lot heavier with flame retardancy involved in it. Also on the big boats, when you're rigging it out, you want to put a water separator filter on there. Helps reduce your problems on your engines. Any water that gets in your fuel lines and fuel tanks because of the ethanol that's in there will be trapped in these things. Shoreline Marine builds one, has a glass bottom on the end of it where you can actually drain it and clean the water out in case you get a little bit of water in there. You want to make sure you trap the water in a container so that it doesn't go overboard into the waters, then dispose of it properly.